Welcome to another tutorial. This week I'm going to look at the Chosen Axes for Warhammer Underworlds. So I started out with a sort of a medium brown spray primer, and I put on here Bugman's Glow for my airbrush. So just painting up all the flesh, trying to give it a base coat. You can do that with a brush, nothing special there. Now I'm putting a layer of Cadian Fleshtone on, just sort of from the top down, spraying it on all the flesh areas, and doing the same thing with Kislev Flesh, just sort of trying to get some of the highlights on the muscles. And just a quick base coat there, just doing with the airbrush a bit faster. A Retributor Armour, painting all of the gold bits. So these guys, I'm keeping it pretty simple, just painting pretty much everything metal gold, and then I'll touch up some stuff with some silver later. Dracaro Orange base for the hair and beards. And as you can see, these guys are pretty straightforward models. They're not wearing a lot of clothes, so there's not a lot of extra things to do. Putting Troll Slayer Orange right over top of that. Just using the previous one as a base color and just brightening it all up a whole lot. So painting everywhere, including the shadows. Now I'm starting to work on the bases. So I painted them all Abaddon Black just to start off with. And now what I'm doing is trying to do really fine airbrushing through all the cracks. Not worrying about getting exactly in everything, but just trying to layer it up there. Now this was my first time doing bases like this, so there's probably a couple steps I could have skipped, make it a bit more efficient. So here then I put on Flash Gitz yellow. I probably should have done the reds first before the yellows and worked backwards that way. But this worked out okay. I do touch these up a little bit later with a brush, so you'll see that later in the tutorial. So just trying to get all of the yellow deep in the cracks there, which of course is hard because yellow is very transparent. And you can see my airbrush splattering a bit out there. Sometimes the paint clogs in the nozzle. Especially with yellows, they're just really difficult to work with, I find. So you're layering up all the different ones that way, over top of all the white bits. And then going in with a bit of Troll Slayer Orange, just to bring out some of the transitions. So I'm going to transition from yellow out to red, just trying to make it look the yellow being sort of a glowing lava, and the red's going to be sort of the darkest spot as it's cooling off. Okay, and then I go in with red from Evil Sunz Scarlet here, just going over sort of the farthest away from any of the cracks. Now the sort of the main guy, I forget his name at the moment, he has a bit of a different base. He doesn't have any cracks on it, so I kind of made them up, sort of any deep spots, I made those sort of glowing yellow. And so he's standing on this big skull. I just left it all black. I figured it's all charred and whatever. Okay, so now once I've done all the red, I'm going to switch over to black and just sort of paint in the middles of all these areas. So get rid of a lot of the red in the middles. Sorry, a bit off screen here. Hopefully I move my hand in a second. And so for all of these airbrush paints, I'm thinning them down with a mix of Flow Improver and water. That's what you see, that dropper bottle there. It's just a homemade mix using Liquitex Flow Improver. I think it's like 20 drops of water to 1 drop of Flow Improver, something like that, whatever the bottle says, the Flow Improver bottle. So I'm just painting the centers of all these cracked bits here. As you can see, I spent a fair bit of time on these bases. I think they're probably a bit more of a focal point than the models, unfortunately, because the guys are pretty simple. And there's all the bases all done up. Pretty much done for now. I'm going to touch them up later. Putting on some silver on the axe blades and a couple other details, but not really a whole lot of silver on these guys. You could do a lot more silver on different areas. And by the way, I'm using a Vallejo airbrush silver there, just painting it straight out of the bottle. I like the silvers from Vallejo a little bit better than GW ones at the moment. Khorne Red for any of the leather bits, so they're sort of their loincloth thing, and that's about it. A bit of Abaddon Black on some of the hilts. The Khorne Red also went on any handles that the guys are holding, but you don't see a lot of that. Their hands are kind of covering that. Okay, Reikland Flesh gloss is going over all of the gold. So the gloss washes, or they kind of go on nicely. They don't dull any of the gold, so that flows right into the cracks and leaves the gold nice and bright. So doing an orange wash here on all the hair and beards. Just try to get some shadows without losing too much of the orange, and using a bit of regular Reikland Flesh shade. Now this is thinned down half and half with the medium, the matte medium, Lanneman medium, whatever it's called, and just thinning it down so it doesn't overshadow, it doesn't cover up too much of the skin that I've done with the airbrush. bit of Nuln Oil on the axe blades and the red bits. Now I'm going to try to touch up some of the flesh here with some brushwork. So Cadian Fleshtone on any of the raised areas of the muscles. And this is just to help brighten it up after that wash. And a bit of Flayed Flesh, doing the same sort of a thing. Trying to, with a fairly fine brush, just trying to get some of the definition on the muscles. Now I did paint the eyes in these guys, and I didn't really show any of that because it's really fiddly bits. But the general idea is you paint some white, you try to paint the pupil, and then you paint flesh back around everything. Some Kindle Flame Dry, dry brushing on the beards and the hair. You can see there a bit more of that. And that's just to get some of the texture. A little bit of bloodletter. So this is these runes that are embedded in the skin. And I thought, I'm going to try to make them look a little bit glowy. I would skip this step here, bloodletter. It didn't. I changed my mind and ended up airbrushing this. So these steps here are kind of useless, if you will, unless you're doing it by hand. In which case, this is probably the way to do it by hand. Doing some orange highlights all around the runes, and then I'm going to do yellow right in the middles. So painting. There we go. Zoomed in a bit. Painting in the runes themselves with yellow, and the orange is meant to be a bit of a glow or a infection. I don't know, whatever sort of a thing. Khorne Red highlights on those talbards and stuff, just touching it up after the Nuln Oil wash. And same with Retributor Armour, going over any spots that I might have missed and painted over, brightening up any of the highlight areas. Doing the same thing with silver, trying to get some silver on the axe blades, using sort of dry brushing method to get a bit of texture on the blades as if they've been worn and used a little bit. But trying to keep them pretty good because I figure dwarves are going to keep their stuff nice and sharp. Wazdakka Red highlights on all the red bits. Just pulling out some of the edges there. Okay, so here's where I changed my mind and decided to do the airbrushing. So using the yellow, just try to make a sort of a halo around all of these runes. And really trying to get the right mix with my airbrush. You can see here, just putting a sort of a halo around everything with the yellow. And the tip keeps drying out. I probably should have used some retarder or something in there to help with the tip drying out. Now I'm using the edge highlighting Dorn yellow to do all of the runes themselves, so making them sort of look glowy and with the yellow kind of aura around them. Using a bit of Liberator Gold, kind of sort of a dry brush on everything, all the gold bits, just to bring out some of the edges and some of the texture. And then I do go and get some of those rivets and stuff on the axes with some silver. So there you go. These guys are all done. They painted up really quick. I think I painted them all in one day with a couple breaks in between. So painted up fast because there's not a lot of colors and there's only 4 guys to work with. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Be sure to check my blog, Instagram for upcoming projects, all that sort of thing. And like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. See you next time.